Welcome back to the LCS Summer Split, and it's Splyce versus H2k. Now, Splyce, Foxdrop, they're on a pretty good track to that playoff, especially after the win yesterday against the Unicorns of Love.
Absolutely, and Roccat losing just now as well definitely helps their chances. And I mean, if we were saying this at the beginning of the split, maybe be like, oh no, maybe Splyce would be falling out this one. They weren't looking too hot towards the beginning of summer, but right now they've really turned it around and looking like honestly a really, not just a playoff team, but actually a decent playoff team. Yeah,
I think they could actually get back to that point where they were able to take at least the third place spot, and who knows, maybe a little bit more. It seemed like something magical happened after Rift Rivals. You know, some teams got jet lagged. These guys got like jet airplaned all the way up the standings after that. So I was going somewhere with it, and let's roll the pick and ban so you don't have to hang on that one.
Yeah, that's fantastic stuff. H2k into Splyce. Not only does Splyce what jet airplaned into success after.
Jetpacked. Man, I had an easy one.
That was, yeah, okay, we'll use that one. That's,
okay, please.
Not only were they jetpacked,
we can edit that out, right?
I think that's how this works. But honestly, H2k, even though they're sitting at a not so pretty 0-13, they have looked better in the past 2 or 3 games. I think that they're definitely, they're not quite as 0-13 teams in my eyes, but having said that, they do have some kind of unknown factors on their team with the addition to Larssen and Caedrel as well, now in that mid and jungle spot respectively.
I think it's fair to say, yeah, the team might be 0-13, but Caedrel's only 0-3 and Larssen's only 0-1 in his first ever game in the European LCS, so there's definitely some new blood infused in here, and despite the fact that they cannot make the playoffs anymore, H2k still have a chance to avoid going winless and playing spoiler perhaps up against the likes of Splyce. So we're into the picks and bans, of course. We see the Aatrox once again now banned on the red side. No surprises there. And this also opens up the first pick of the Trundle. And all these other junglers banned away.
That's not too surprising either. I mean, we saw the first pick Trundle last game as well. So just generally speaking, its place in the meta, definitely worth first picking. But Caedrel specifically, I had the pleasure of casting him not only in the UK scene, but also at EU Masters most recently. And he was a bit of a Trundle one trick. If he wasn't playing Trundle, he didn't look too hot at all. So this actually really suits not only the way the meta is right now, but also him specifically as a player, which is very interesting because if this Azir gets locked in, which it has been, fantastic transition there, H2k, love you fellas. Another Larssen champion. Again, seeing this guy a lot from the UK scene, if you don't really know his history, he's played a lot in the UK scene, just Manolite, Diabolus, loads of different teams. He's been around for a long time. And even
mentioned NIP as well.
Exactly, in the EU Masters and NIP too. And one of the criticisms of Larssen, he's always been a bit of a superstar in whatever league he's played. But one of the criticisms is his champion pool perhaps is a bit weaker. And the 2 champions that really he's good on are things like Azir and Vlad. And we saw Vlad yesterday, and now we're seeing that Azir.
All right, so champion pool issues one thing or another. Over to Splyce, though, they've gone for the same kind of comfortable lock-ins that we saw from them yesterday in their win versus Unicorns. The Orianna for Nisqy, the Kindred for Xerxe, and now the Rumble for Odoamne. That is an old favorite of his.
That is an old favorite of his, and it is a blind Rumble, which is not too surprising nowadays.
Not for Odo either.
Not for Odo especially, but it does give Smittyj that opportunity to counter-pick into that Rumble. Especially when you're going up against a Kindred jungle, that is a champion that can have early pressure, so you want to pick something, depending on, I think that you could pick something more aggressive, honestly. Interesting Elise ban here though, just to pause my point, because does that mean that Splyce think that that could be a Trundle support? I mean, honestly, it could be. I do believe that Promisq played Trundle support the other day.
He did.
So it actually could be this flex pick Trundle. Personally, I think you should stick it in the jungle. Personally, I think that I mean, Caedrel's good at it, and at this point as well, just stick these guys on their comfort picks and kind of hope for the best.
H2k have been experimenting though in more ways than one, so you never know. Splyce might just be trying to cover all the angles. It is a little bit weird, I'll admit, a little bit weird. I want to see what Splyce round this comp out with, because if you remember the last time, they actually played Varus, Poppy, and the Tahm Kench. Now, Tahm Kench is banned. They've already got themselves a top laner, so things are going to be a little different here. I want to see what they round this out with, because Kobbe's another one of those players that has been consistently showing up on Marksman. And if you notice, a missing Marksman in the ban column right now is Jhin.
Yes, Hail of Blaze Jhin specifically. I honestly think that's going to be banned here. Personally, I think it's...
Keep my fingers crossed it doesn't.
I think it's actually quite exciting to watch because he's like a speedster.
They banned Varus.
Varus. Okay, cool. So I would imagine that this would be the Jhin pickup. Not necessarily here because you're going to assume that the Swain is Xerxe Swain. So it's not like you have to pick your AD carry else. It's going to get taken away from you.
No, I mean, it's Smittyj, and then they take the Trundle support so they can all long con it.
Yeah, maybe it's like a huge flex on like every role. Maybe it's Sheriff on Azir and a mid Swain.
Yeah, madness. Another big playmaking champion that made it through the ban column, though, is the Pyke, and that's picked up for kaSing.
I'm actually glad we saw that one. I really enjoy seeing Pyke in the LCS. I think he's a lot of fun to watch.
And correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think I've seen kaSing play Pyke.
I don't think he has. He's played Zoe support.
He's played Zoe support. I mean, he's played everything. This is the guy that has an insane number of champion picks. You've got Rakan, Tahm Kench, Fiddlesticks, and all that, but he adds an entirely another champion to his already formidable pool. H2k is going to try to match an old Promisq favorite. It's the Alistar. Now, what are they going to round this out with?
Well, I was wondering whether Smittyj would pick more of a dueling champion in that top side. I would say that is a bit risky because I would like to play around the bot lane in this competition with H2k. I think Pyke as a champion is really okay. Cool. So, phew, not going to be that duelist champion. I think that duelist would be a little bit risky here, but I think in the H2k's team comp, when you have a kill lane in Alistar and Swain, it's very good at setting up kills and getting those kills in the lane phase. And when you're playing against a Pyke that's so good at roaming around the map, the best way to keep him off the map is to stick him in his lane because he needs to be there because he's getting destroyed. So I think if you put pressure in the bot side, it would mean that you would want to draft something that is a little bit safer in the top lane. And unfortunately for you, Pyra, there is no Hail of Blades Jhin. It's going to be an Ezreal.
Kobbe is playing very safe, so I think this doubles down on your point about it, the roaming Pyke. That's pretty obvious. That's what he wants to do. But now I feel like Kobbe's going to be 1v2 in bot lane for a little while.
Well, I think that's also why they have preferred the Ez over the Jhin. If you pick the Jhin, you're pretty blooming vulnerable in a 2v1 scenario, assuming kaSing leaves your lane. And even then, it could also be a 3v1 scenario if Caedrel were to come down. So you want to pick something that can farm from range, that has good escapes, and Jhin definitely is not that kind of champion. But Ez absolutely is.
Yep. So it is the smart choice, even though I'm a little disappointed. But we did see some pretty impressive Ezreal play. We saw this last game with Steelback, and perhaps Kobbe can match. It's also a comfortable champion for him. And for Splyce, why take the risk when you can cleanly take out H2k and extend your wins? If they manage to put another one away here, remember, they put 2 games between themselves and everyone else below them vying for that 6th place spot. For H2k, it's all about playing the spoiler here. Will this composition finally be the one to break the losing streak? 0-13 currently for H2k, or will Splyce be able to come up with yet another victory?
I think for H2k, we're not even talking about their standings in the LCS, the fact that they can't make playoffs anymore. I just think you're human beings, you're League of Legends players. You just want to win. You haven't won yet, just from a very basic standard
You need that first win of the day, man.
Exactly, they need their 200 IP. They want that. And so don't think that H2k, that's the one, sorry.
Yeah.
Don't think that H2k are just like, whatever, who cares?
No, these guys are going to try hard.
They still want to win. You just want to win.
And new blood. Importantly, it's the new blood. You've got Larssen, you've got Caedrel, and even the old players. I mean, you want to make a statement that you can still take the victory. H2k, we were talking about this before we came into today's games, that this is definitely a team that, you know, looks a little bit stronger than being completely winless. They've had some very close calls. Yeah,
most recently that's definitely true. And I think now that the team is looking fresher, shall we say, because they have brought in Caedrel. He's only played 3 games, I believe. This is his 4th. And Larssen, who is going to double his EU LCS appearances, sorry, is the word I'm looking for, in this one game.
It's his performance as well.
It's going from 1 to 2.
Yeah, I think it's fairly good to see him and new blood in general on H2k coming in to try their hand at what they can do here for this team. Now, for Splyce, though, we got to talk about how these guys also turn their fortunes around from the start of the split. You alluded to it in the pick and ban phase, how that first half, it was really rocky. Splyce weren't finding those wins. And then Rift Rivals happened, then they started picking things up, and all of a sudden, they're sitting here at 7-6.
Yeah, looking much more like the team that we saw at them in spring. The team that got them into Rift Rivals in the first place. And Nisqy specifically, for me, has been a bit of a stand-up performer. I mean, teams are starting to ban Zoe away from him, which to that I say, about blooming time, guys. He's really good on that Zoe, just take it away from him. But still, I think when your mid laner is on form, I think everything else kind of falls into place a little bit, because mid lane is such an important role in League of Legends. And that honestly could also be that question mark around Larssen being a new player on H2k.
And we talked about this being spoiler potential here. All these teams around Splyce definitely cheering for H2k here today. Now, Caedrel comes in for a very early gank, but he can only blow his police whistle, as Nisqy is unfazed by that attempt.
Does use the heal, however, which, to be honest, I don't think means a huge amount as far as the context of the game goes. But still, it is something, and about 20 seconds ago, you saw a tweet from a very handsome man pop up on the bottom of the screen. VoD said that if you're looking to get into playoffs, you want the teams who are already in there to drop out. And so if you're Giants, you want H2k to win. You want this team to start taking wins off of the teams that you're trying to catch up to.
Well, let's explore how they can do it. We get to see the Trundle into the Kindred matchup again today. This time it's happening on the red side of the map. So talk me through this one as Xerxe finds out too late that Caedrel has stolen away his red buff.
Yeah, I think what we're seeing more from Trundle is teams are really utilizing him to shut down the enemy jungler specifically, to counter jungle a bit more, to go into that jungle. And Trundle is really good at doing that because he has really solid single target clears. He's good at taking away the jungle camps. He's healthy when he's doing that, and also is very strong in the specific 1v1 fights, because he steals some of your AD when he bites you. Not only does he have good damage, but he's going to make it so that you don't do as much to him. So
it's literally insult on top of injury.
Exactly, insult on top of injury. And it's one of those bites that you definitely want to get looked up, because holy moly, is it painful.
Yeah, well, Xerxe's got a few bites of his own when the wolf comes out, but speaking of wolf camp, Caedrel's going to make easy work of this one. It does seem, though, despite the early invade into the red side jungle, he's committed to just making sure he can clear his own, and Xerxe's actually more or less done the same thing. So it is a very slow start to this game nonetheless. We're not seeing any crazy trickery that we were apt to the last time.
Yeah, we saw in the last game when it was Kindred Rumble, the Kindred tried to split, on the same team I should specify, that Kindred tried to split the map so that they had, so the Kindred had control of the top side of the map so that they could cover for the Rumble, who would be pushing and playing aggressively. That's not happened this game. Splyce not interested in doing that. They have more faith in Odoamne in the 1v1 to kind of look after himself a bit more. But if there is going to be something in this game where something is going to happen, it will be around the top side of the map. The bot lane is honestly just... I mean, if you want to play safe, you can play safe there, and I think that especially the fact that Kobbe is now itemizing into the tier, unlike the Sheen Rush, which we see sometimes as well, which does give you a bit more of that lane damage. Not much will be happening around there. So around the top side of the map is most likely where you're going to see stuff going down, because that will be an aggressive lane matchup. Speaking of which...
There is some early plays. It looks like Kobbe gets caught snoozing for just a second, and he has to burn his flash.
Well, we said it was a safe lane, but that is H2k's draft is the complete opposite. They want to play aggressive, and they're very good at initiating that. Promisq has played Alistar quite a lot, and he's very good at finding those windows to go aggressive. To be honest, in the lane phase, Promisq has looked like a pretty solid support. I think that Tom Kench play when he was like a 1v2 first blood, he finds the way to make it happen, and just there gets both summoners obviously from Kobbe as well, because he's going to TP back into lane.
Yeah, going to allow H2k to net themselves an early Ocean Dragon as well, so nicely played for the H2k side all around.
Can I just say, Hextech Alistar is an absolute scorcher of a skin.
Uh-oh, speaking of Scorchers, Smittyj, he's having a bit of a bad day. Xerxe going forward, that's first blood. Tower shots are flying, but he gets out alive.
I mentioned that top lane was most likely where stuff was going to happen. The Rumble pushing in, can play aggressive as well. And exactly as you saw, there it is. And
yeah, we've seen a lot of wave clearing equalizers.
We have seen
today.
a lot of equalizing wave clears, and oh, it works.
Yes, indeed. All right, but one of the places that's been a little quieter this game, and I want to call some attention to, is the mid lane, because Larssen is in his second game of the LCS. And this is what he did yesterday, which doesn't look that impressive, but then you got to remember, he's up against Perkz. Yep,
he's up against Perkz and G2, who are absolutely no pushovers. It's kind of like a trial by fire for your first ever EU LCS game.
Perkz gave him a pass.
Absolutely. Larssen was tweeting out last night after his game, just talking about his game a little bit, and Perkz in response, giving him some praise, saying you did really well. Maybe your draft wasn't so good, but outside of that, you were solid. And I mean, that's not even a criticism of Larssen himself. Perkz, if Perkz gives you the thumbs up, then hey, you must have been doing something right.
Yeah, and Larssen has been, outspoken in the past about how Perkz is one of the players he looks up to as a younger player now making his debut in the LCS. So it calls back to your point. These guys are definitely going to do their darndest to win the game, not because it matters for playoffs for them, but it's to showcase the skills that they do have. They are on the big stage with the big boys. Larssen is kind of having a trial by fire because first he has Perkz.
Yeah.
Now he's up against Nisqy, who has honestly been one of the better mid laners this split.
He has, but I don't think he's quite Perkz Cap's territory. So I think, honestly, as far as Larssen's concerned, considering he has to play against Perkz, he's probably thinking this will be a bit of an easier one, especially since he's playing versus an Orianna this time around.
Yeah, it's more, I tried to hype it up, and then I'm like, yeah, it's an Orianna matchup.
But I mean, honestly, though, Nisqy has definitely shown that he is no slouch in that mid lane, and he absolutely can get solo kills, and he's not someone you want to take it lightly whatsoever. But Larssen is good on these scaling late game champions, and I mean, we haven't really seen much Azir success in the LCS, in the EU LCS specifically. We were joking about this in the caster room. Perhaps EU Azir is the NA Rengar. /NAJ/NA.
I mean, NA anything, to be completely honest. But there's a bit of a fight going on here over this blue buff. Xerxe, he gets the Lambs just by level 6 on. kaSing on level 4 is going to be fighting right in the middle of it. And there, after Odoamne gets the teleport out, they find Sheriff caught in the Demonic Ascension. H2k scattering. Caedrel, there's the ball delivery on top of him, and Nisqy's going to pick up a kill as well. Splyce are on 3-0.
Slightly ill-advised fight to take that deep in the jungle when your top lane doesn't have TP and you know the enemy top lane does have TP, and you're pushed in the enemy jungle, which means that that rotation in that mid lane is always going to come through from the enemy jungler first. Bit risky there, does not play off, as we can see. If you look at the positions of the lane here, despite the fact that the Azir has pushed in mid, Nisqy really doesn't care that much because he's just going to walk through. And this is what I was talking about before as well. There's no pressure on Odoamne in that top lane. So he's free to TP in here, and no teleport up for Smittyj means he can't match that. So quite simply, from a numbers game perspective, you can't really do too much here. A bit over-aggressive, a bit too much, and it costs them.
Yeah, and crucially, it gives kills to the Kindred, the Orianna, the Ezreal. Of course, there was already one on the Kindred, excuse me. That was the first blood from earlier on. But at 9 minutes into the game, it's pretty critical that Splyce, even though they're kind of taking it slow, being more comfortable, they've already got a decent lead. And we see that Splyce love to play, kind of cruise to victory once they have it. The Spring Split Splyce, which is a tongue twister, has been the way they've been finding success in recent weeks.
Yes, and Odoamne really being the catalyst for all of these plays so far. The fact that Xerxe was able to get that first blood was because Odoamne pushed in under Smittyj's tower, harassed him out, and really Xerxe was just formality there, honestly, picking up that first blood kill. But kaSing has a very wide champion pool, shall we say. 11 is actually
it's an ocean at this point. 11
definitely an ocean.
Different champions played in 13 games. Incredibly diverse in the way that he actually chooses champions. And you could say, okay, some of that's just some of his favorites that he enjoys, like the Zillion. But he makes these things work, and this is what's so enjoyable to watch about kaSing as a player, that he can play multiple styles.
It's enjoyable to watch, and I think it's always a strength of a team as well when you have wider champion pools, because it makes you so hard to predict in the draft. You can start whipping out these champions as flex picks as well, like we saw with the Zoe specifically, or in the past. I don't know why you'd ever flex Zoe onto kaSing, honestly, when Nisqy's on your team, but it does give you those options. And kaSing, he's shown that he's able to perform no matter what you give him, and he's very flexible, which is always a positive trait out of a teammate. But Caedrel here is looking to take away this Rift Herald, and Xerxe might just snip him out, but might not at the same time. They gank Larssen.
Instead, they get the pull back on the Bone Skewer flash, and Emperor's Divide stops that one. It's just enough time as well for Rift Herald to go down a little bit late on that equalizer there. Odoamne, old buddy, Caedrel picks it up. And I want to give some credit to Caedrel here. He's been playing pretty well in this game so far, keeping pace with what Xerxe is doing. And now Larssen gets some free poke over the wall.
I will trade a Herald for a Flash and say that's not too bad for H2k. The only exception obviously being if Splyce come back and punish Larssen while that Flash is down, but he still has his heal, so it might be a bit tricky to do that considering he's also just Azir in general. But I'm actually quite curious how Caedrel and H2k want to use this Rift Herald, because you don't really have a good place to drop it on the entire map. You have no control of the map. look at the vision in the bot side of the map as well. Basically, the entire bot side river is in Splyce's favor as far as vision is concerned. Look at those pink wards going down there as well. It's going to be hard for you to squeeze out a play on the bot side of the map because Splyce will just be so quick to react to it.
Yeah, we got to keep an eye on where Caedrel actually ends up pathing. You can see he's hanging around the top side, but Odo has survived years of taking lots and lots of jungle pressure without falling, so it looks like it's going to be up in the top. Odo knows smartly to back away. Meanwhile, Splyce look to try and make a dive on the bot. Not going to happen. Instead, turning their attention to mid. But H2k are actually going to come up with first tower of the game thanks to this Rift Herald play, and that puts them a little bit closer in that gold game.
Yeah, and if you're H2k, you wanted something like that because the game was starting to slip away from you. Xerxe did pick up a stack from that chicken camp as well, but H2k are actually going to run Shelly into a second tower here for a bit more harass, and H2k needs to be careful. Caedrel specifically, he's sort of overextending here a little bit if Splyce want to take this one.
They know he's here.
I think they have a sneaky suspicion he is, but they also don't know who else might be there, which is why they're hesitating on that play.
But H2k not only grab that top tower, they get a lot of vision in the top side. So as you mentioned, it's kind of like what we saw almost last game with splitting the map vertically or horizontally in a little different way. And focus for Splyce on this bot side. You can see kaSing actually finding out the control ward here. But kudos to H2k getting the vision down.
Yeah, but with this first bot tower going down on the top side, it does mean now that Smittyj, if he wants to push, he can push harder and then teleport down to maybe go for this dragon play or something like that if H2k decide to do that. On the other hand, it also potentially makes him more vulnerable as he has further to go to push, geographically speaking, distance-wise, and is therefore further away from his tower, which is the safety of the map.
Earlier on, we were doing math lessons. Now we're doing geography lessons. You can teach me a lot, Foxdrop. But for H2k, I mentioned it was about pride in playing spoiler. There is something that they actually want to be playing for in this game, apart from all that more nebulous stuff. It's to not be the longest losing streak in the European LCS. Throughout history, there have been a handful of teams and a handful of broken graphics as well. But let's just run through it because I have this, by my own memory here. The longest losing streak currently is at 14, and that is Origin of last year. The second longest, H2k holds at 13 right now. And the other teams were Mysterious Monkeys and Dragonborns.
Dragonborns.
I know, that's a name. That's a name you don't hear a whole lot. Now Larssen, he goes in for Nisqy, gets the Shurima shuffle back right into Caedrel, forcing the flash. And there's going to be a shockwave traded for even more damage. Nisqy's going to fall. Larssen is managing to come up with the kill, and they keep going all into the Lambs for Spite. Xerxe, Odoamne caught up, and H2k collapse excellently. Xerxe is shut down by Promisq's Ignite, and H2k smash and grab 2 kills, but Larssen falls in the fray.
Cheeky Ignite there from Promisq to pick up Xerxe, and he finds himself with double buffs after that play. I'm sure every Alistar would be really happy about that one. But Larssen, really huge in that whole play. I'm sure if we get a replay up, we'll see just what he was able to do, but this is a very green player. Second game ever in the EU LCS, and he made a play with confidence, and that's really what you're looking for out of a rookie.
Yeah, and this is why I think it's important to give him something he's comfortable on, especially at this level. Even though it's the LCS, sometimes comfort is more important than being able to fit exactly what the meta is, and Larssen, as you said, goes very confidently in onto Nisqy and makes the play.
Just a bread and butter engage right there, and just shuffles Nisqy right into the middle of mid lane with his team waiting, and this 2v2, the Trundle pick specifically allows you to do this because he can steal resistances from your opponent, reduces their AD. It basically means whenever you have any small skirmishes, you're going to come out on top. And look at that. Total damage to champions. Last team fight, Larssen.
And give some credit to Caedrel as well for being there. But I liked that for a couple of reasons. As you mentioned, yeah, he's a rookie player. He felt confident enough to make that move. But another thing, if he plays like that on Azir, I want to see this dude on Assassins.
Yeah, well, this is... to be fair, you might be careful what you wish for. Larssen is known for blind picking champions like Talon, champions like Kassadin.
We've had a couple of those players in the LCS, and it's a bit of a coin flip.
Before they were meta, mind you. They weren't meta at this. We're talking months ago.
Are you talking like pre-parkour Talon?
Not quite that. I don't know, honestly. anything longer than a week ago, it blurs into one to me. But
That's
it was yeah.
It's back in the day
it
when,
was an eyebrow raiser.
Carries, yeah.
We'll put it that way. But no, Larssen and Caedrel, just to really hammer home that the 2v2 of these guys have played together a lot, right? They played together in the EU Masters and NIP. Both of them were on NIP in that roster. And they played together as well in the UK scene on Diablos. So they have already got that kind of mid-jungle synergy together, which is something that is extremely important in League of Legends when you're trying to make plays across the map. And having that confidence in one another, and you saw in that play, it really pays off.
It's paid off for H2k in spades right now. They find themselves 1,000 gold in the lead. Despite being down in kills, they have the tower advantage. And look at where the push is happening. You have Smittyj solo pushing in the bottom. This is a guy that started the game getting first blooded, and he's just had a very quiet surge back to action, going on that split push Gnar with the Black Cleaver and working his way towards the Frozen Mallet. Meanwhile, the rest of H2k are on the mid lane, and Splyce, they're kind of caught snoozing.
Yeah, Splyce might not actually be able to defend this one. It's going to get very low regardless. Oh, nice shockwave.
Yeah, no follow-up though. You can see kaSing waiting around the side. He actually goes in this time, and H2k are out. That is 3 towers to 0. They have the tempo.
Splyce might look to do a return push of their own here if they catch H2k resetting, but Larssen has pretty good wave clear on that Azir, so if he stays, which it looks like he will, then that shouldn't be too much of a problem. But look at the minion wave in the top side as well. Honestly, both these side waves are pushing in right now, so Odoamne is threatening that bot lane just by himself to potentially get that tower. And the position of the minion wave in the top side is looking to do the exact same thing, with Splyce rotating over, taking away vision in the top side as well, going to push this tower down.
All right, Kobbe and Xerxe finding that there are some open towers available to them. kaSing has joined as well, and it looks like H2k want to try and collapse on this, but I am not so bad at math that I know that 2 is not greater than 3. So Sheriff and Promisq back away. That is 1 tower to the Splyce boys.
If you notice the way that H2k have been able to find success this game as well, it hasn't come off of the back of a lot of proper fights. Yes, we saw that 2v2 in the mid lane where Larssen engaged in onto Nisqy and they won that fight, but it's not been a lot of proper fighting. And I think that's smart, because there is no way in hell I would want to be fighting against a Salt Boots Morellonomicon, that's a tough word to say, Rumble at this stage of the game. Rank 2 ultimate, all that penetration coming through as well. He is really scary right now. You just want to avoid the situations where he can get in and demolish a team.
And it's Odoamne piloting the champion.
And it's Odoamne.
I think that's the key to remember here, is that Odo has had a pretty big history on champions like that. As Kobbe, well, he nearly face-checked a little bit extra damage, but Sheriff and Promisq decided that the red buff was going to be a little bit more important here. So H2k continue this trend of really owning the top side of Splyce's jungle. kaSing is going to find this a little too late.
A little too late, not going to get anything out of it, but the bottom side of the map for Splyce is of interest to them. Not only is the dragon spawning in about 30 seconds, but there's also a mark there, which if this was solo queue, I would definitely die trying to take, but it looks as though Xerxe is a little, funny enough, a little bit better of a jungler than I am, which is probably why I'm standing here and he's sitting over there. But either way, it's dragon and a mountain dragon. LCS teams specifically really like to take this one because, would you believe it, they're actually pretty good at playing around objectives, and solo queue perhaps more of an underrated underrated dragon, or underutilized I should say. But Splyce will be looking to take this one, and like I mentioned before, with the Rumble, I mean, this becomes a really hard dragon to contest, because if Rumble can get the red carpet down, it does so much damage, no matter how H2k start the fight up.
They back off.
Yeah, it would look pretty scary.
Yeah, but instead they focus their energies elsewhere, right? They're pushing in 3 lanes at the moment, but the one that's getting the most done right now is actually up top, because Sheriff was solo shepherding those minions up there. However, Kobbe's fast enough and mobile enough to really clean this one up. So H2k don't get a whole lot out of that, and that's a big win for Splyce here.
What I would have liked to seen H2k do in this situation is, you know that Splyce will be able to take that dragon and you probably won't be able to contest it. Why don't you use that time to go into the top side of the map and get some vision down? As you can see, the top side of the jungle is pretty dark for H2k, which makes it really hard for you to get any significant push in that top lane. So they weren't able to really, I mean, nothing in the bot side, and only that one soul ward at the red buff as Promisq is walking up to it now as well. He's going pretty deep though without his team. I'm not sure about this one.
Hold on a minute. Yeah, that is a deep cow right now. Kobbe is finding some chip shots on him. He was close enough to Sheriff for it to not be the worst in the world, but that was, I think you would often say ill-advised?
Yes, ill-advised and suboptimal are the two phrases I would use. But
okay, which one of those is better?
I think
or
this
worse,
scenario it will be ill-advised.
Okay.
Nothing too bad really happened. It's kind of like, well, I wouldn't do that if I were you,
I mean, he did get quite a lot carved off the flank there, but yeah, he made it out with his life, and that's what counts.
Exactly. I just think, you know, you've always got to be careful putting vision down by yourself. But there is a great importance in doing that. You know, it's not like he's just running into the enemy jungle and suiciding. He wants to secure that vision down. And H2k, they want to be able to do that. Are they actually starting that Baron as a two-man?
With Smittyj pushing solo on the bottom side.
They might be
risky.
on that Baron. Can we see the Baron? I think they're on it.
Yeah, they're done. They surprised everybody.
Yeah.
22-minute Baron.
That deserves a round of applause.
H2k, hello.
Bloody hell.
That was great.
That was, yeah, Mr. Baron, you have gone the way of boiling water. You will be missed.
Wow. That took me like 2 seconds too long. But okay, I mean, I think it took Splyce a few more seconds too long than that. These guys, they seem to be controlling the pace, and they were playing it out a little bit casually right now, not trying to take any fights, but still finding, you know, finding vision, finding control, and all of a sudden, H2k grab a Baron, so just like with the Rift Herald, let's see what they can do with it.
Exactly. It's one thing to take it, but it is another thing to be able to utilize it. To be fair, getting the Baron by itself does give you a chunk of gold, and you kind of take it off the map and stuff like that, so it's still good just to take. And you can see that it's reflected a little bit in the gold difference as well. Still not a huge amount to write home, but it is something. But right now, I mean, you mentioned about Smittyj just being that split pusher. He's been doing it all game. Now he does it with a Baron buff, which makes him that much scarier. H2k really want to set up this 1-4 here, 4-1 more specifically, where they group up in the mid lane. They can potentially also do a 1-3-1 if good old Larssen decides he wants to do that, but they have to be careful.
Caedrel. Here we go. But Sheriff, though, he's right in the front, and that's going to be the Demonic Ascension pop. The teleport coming in a little bit late, perhaps. A Lambs or Spite's thrown on, and kaSing, he's going to narrowly make his escape, and that was going to be the equalizer. Everything thrown down to try and push him back. Nisqy still hanging on to that shockwave, but H2k feel like they can still take this without the ultimates left and available. Caedrel goes gold to dodge out that shockwave with a couple of minions. It's just a little chip damage onto it. Kobbe looking for Promisq, kaSing coming through as well. Larssen actually looking around the side, but maybe he was just focusing on the farm, not focusing on the flank.
I think H2k kind of missed the mark a little bit in this play. You don't really want to fight in this scenario. Well, the best thing for you to do here is just, if you can bait Splyce into getting a little bit desperate and maybe they're trying to force in onto you, Smittyj is just sitting bot side, and that's fine. He just keeps pushing in, and he gets that tower, he works his split push, but he actually TP'd into that fight. He didn't TP flank, he was like maybe like further behind with the rest of the whole team. He was just there in case his team needed him. I don't really think that was necessary. That is an actual...
That's a tilter.
He's very blue right now.
Yes, incredibly, in fact. And unfortunately for Nisqy, he's not. So Smittyj, well, I can say this, he won't run out of mana anytime soon.
No, he won't run out of mana. He has an extra 10% CDR in his pocket as well, which I'm sure he's very happy about. But this time, I would like to see...
Technically, he's always out of mana. Though.
He's always... But he's also never in need of mana.
Oh, that's a good point.
So... But this is right now what I want to see more from H2k. Set up in this mid lane, you have the Azir turret as well. Azir's reached a huge power spike right now. He's even got the death cap. And Smittyj just sits in the bot side and split pushes. Promisq, buddy, honestly, you don't need to do anything here. Please don't. My heart, it can only take so much.
He's fine, though.
But there you go, exactly like that. You set up this scenario where you're pushing in two different lanes, and then Bob Jungle brings it in, and you've got two towers.
I don't know what you said, but I agree with you. Nicely played, though, by H2k. So they find themselves up. It's 4,500 gold in the lead. There's going to be an Infernal Dragon spawning, and they're making pretty good use of this Baron buff. It's about to run out, but H2k, I mean, I've not been able to say this all split, but they're looking pretty good.
They are looking pretty good. I honestly think the past few weeks they have looked fairly decent. Obviously, they haven't been able to pick up those wins, and perhaps it's just decent in comparison to how they looked in the past, which really wasn't particularly decent. But like I mentioned, with the past few weeks' performances, I think they could have squeezed a win or two out of those weeks. And it looks like right now in this game, they might be able to do it again.
Yeah,
But
they are not looking like the 0 and 13 team at the moment. And remember, I want to go back to it because I know we've had people night and day working away to fix the graphic, and it is now fixed. They are still that second place all-time loss leaderboard, but if they stop the streak here today, they avoid that infamy of tying Origin in 2017, going at 0 and 14. And they are well on their way to do it right now. H2k extending their lead, easy take of that Dragon.
I can't believe that Dragonborn's logo made it through.
Yeah, it was a different time.
It was a
I wasn't even around, by the way. So I looked at that for like 5 minutes. I was like, what team is that?
Shushe, I remember from Dragonborn. That was the team he started up. He was Fnatic's superstar mid laner when they won the World Championships in Season 1. And then he kind of fell off a little bit. I believe this is when the era of Soaz and next Pyke came through. Soaz, who was playing for AAA against All Authority, who, funnily enough, was second place in that Season 1 World Championships.
Oh, speaking of Smittyj, hello! I had a transition, but forget about that one. Smittyj's going to fall, but not before he picks up a kill. Takes down kaSing, and that was like a 1v4.
It was, and nice job getting a kill. However, not the best timing to make a heroic play because Larssen was in spawn, Promisq and Sheriff and Caedrel, I mean everyone basically, not really in position to capitalize on the fact that they sent so many people in that bot side. And I think, honestly, looking at this goal difference here, that to me is the most surprising thing about this game right now, is that H2k, they started this game much like H2k tends to start games not particularly well. But they actually found a way to kind of bring it back in that sense. You know, I always thought that if H2k were to win a game, it would be because they got a lead early and they just were able to really hard snowball off of it, which has not been the case in this one whatsoever. So here we're going to see Smittyj doing his magical Smittyj stuff here. The important thing, though, is that Larssen is resetting. Promisq is still in spawn, and Caedrel is around his blue buff, so no one will be able to capitalize on that. But that was in a 1v4, you go 1-for-1, absolutely, you'll be happy with that one.
Yeah, nonetheless, it did kind of stymie the follow-up push that H2k wanted to do, so they weren't able to take that top inner down. That's the last inner on the map for them. And critically, in another 35 seconds, Baron's going to be up and available, and I wonder what Splyce is going to do to try and get themselves in a better position, because they really were sleeping on that last one.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to be able to do that twice. I really don't think that Splyce will fall for that one again. And Baron is a really important objective for both these teams right now. If H2k want to be able to really put a stamp on this game and find a way to close it out, Baron is your ticket. If Splyce want to find a way to stall the game out and actually not have H2k, give H2k their first win of the entire split, you really don't want to lose that Baron.
Yeah, and you really don't want to be the team that is going to drop to the winless team, not just because no one else has lost to them all split long, but because it really does hurt your playoff chances. This is why all these other teams that are vying for a playoff spot are around it. And coming into this game, Splyce looked like one of those teams that was in a pretty good position to be somewhere between 4th and 6th place at the least. I am starting to question that now.
I think so too. I think to be honest, if we were to reset the standings, everyone's a 0-0 team. Yeah, H2k definitely have an argument for not being a 10th place team. I think the H2k, with their refreshed lineup, they've shaken things up. I mean, to be honest, this is how they found success in the spring split as well when they brought in Shook. That's how they turned it all around. And now they're doing something a bit similar with Larssen and with Caedrel as well.
They're starting off of Baron again.
Baron V2.
All right, so this time Xerxe is here. Is he going to be able to get over the wall? No, H2k are going to back up, and Xerxe actually jumping into the pit. This Baron's not getting de-aggroed, so Splyce might want to try and steal it away. We could be in for a smite fight with the hop over the wall already happening. This one is up in the air. Caedrel, no, there's the reset. That was a close one for just a moment. Everything was getting crazy on screen.
It was getting a bit crazy, and I think it was getting a bit scary as well, honestly, that this game might come down to a 50-50 Baron smite.
You don't want that, man.
Which is, that is not what you want to see happening.
Crowd is celebrating.
For the Azir turret that gets self-destructed. Good job, you got that tower.
Hey man, that's worth. It still counts as a tower. Remember when it used to be actually counted as towers in the scoreboard?
Oh really?
Yeah, that was a weird.
I think it's still funny that it even pops up as a notification.
Yeah.
It's specifically because the woman says it.
When it dies as well, like of its own accord, it's also talked about. Like, you have to mourn its death.
And I think right here, this is what we're going to be seeing a lot of in the next 2 to 3 minutes.
Ah, yes. I'm well acquainted with the European Baron dance.
Yes.
It is a tried and tested set of movements,
Exactly.
back and forth. Sometimes, unfortunately, people have 2 left feet, so...
At this stage of the game, this area of the map is very much like a dodgy mortgage, high interest.
Never change Foxdrop. And never change Smittyj. Pushing himself in the bottom side. He does grab an inhibitor tower. And H2k, like clockwork, are right back to the Baron. Promisq helping Xerxe get rooted up here, and he's going to have to use the Lamb's Respite. He's going to pop off in just a couple of seconds. Meanwhile, look what's happening up at the inhibitor. It is chaos on both sides. Knock away. Xerxe is not going to be able to go down in that one, but he can't get into the Baron pit, so Caedrel gets the smite down. And once again, Smittyj, he's going to give his life for the cause.
But Smittyj, exactly. Life for the cause. He does his job, and for the first time,
they deserve this one right now. I will tell you, the crowd is fired up.
The H2k chants in the EU LCS studio. Everyone in Berlin loves an underdog. H2k looking to prove it right now.
One hell of an underdog, trying to stop that losing streak. That would feel oh so good for this team, who've had rough fortunes for most of it now. Xerxe nearly getting caught. He's forced to flash away. That is just so much CC train going through. So a tower's going to get taken out with this Baron buff in tow. H2k well on their way. Can kaSing get the flank off onto Larssen? He looks a hunting, gets the ignite. I don't think that's enough. Oh, hello, looks for the death from below. Larssen dodges out. Nice play by the rookie Pullman. And he gets the outplay, but he's still clipped by Kobbe in the end. And H2k don't care. They've got an inhib.
They've got an inhib. But Nisqy wants more. He's thinking about it. The stone player.
Oh, two-step and Caedrel. I like this. Nicely done.
I think he's still not long for this world.
No, but it still
that's a
keeps
jump
on going.
in.
That's a lot of fights. Now Kobbe, hop over. There's the Gnar from Smittyj looking for some revenge from earlier. Sheriff 1v2. Smittyj flashing right back.
Gonna get mega.
This is going to be a triple kill for the Orianna, but Nisqy, I don't think he'll live to talk about it. Nicely played by Smittyj.
And that could just be game. There are huge death timers on the side of Splyce. Smittyj is alive. I think he's won the game.
You could not predict this one. The last man standing is Smittyj. kaSing comes back up, but there's a big Gnar up against the Nexus. Tower going to fall pretty close, though. Smittyj has to hop away back in mini Gnar form. And he should be able to take down this Nexus turret, but I don't think he's going to be able to end the game here.
Not quite. All right, maybe we got a little bit hypey here on the
That's not done yet.
ending.
Okay, it's done.
But the respawns are coming through here. All right, okay. We've still got a bit more League of Legends to play, ladies and gentlemen. It's not quite over yet, but it is definitely looking like they're in the driving seat here from H2k.
As the replay loads up, we didn't get to see if the Nexus tower died.
This is kaSing getting a bit cheeky here on Larssen.
That was
He wants to tick him
cheeky.
down to execute range. Ooh, close.
Sorry, back to the replay.
He wants to tick Larssen down to execute range, but Larssen with a really solid job to just outplay, and nice clip on the end there. But this is where Nisqy coming back into the fight. I think H2k kind of overextend a little bit, but look at the TP coming through on the left side of your screen. Smittyj being a decent role player in this game. He's certainly, after his first death, which looked a little bit just, honestly, what a poor death that was, he's really turned it up, and look at the hero of this one.
Yeah.
First, he secures his team, the Baron, by split pushing, and now he secures his team, the Ace.
Yeah, I think Smittyj, honestly, has got to be one of the candidates in my mind for the player of the game, because yes, he took a couple of unnecessary deaths, but then he took some very useful deaths, which is a weird statement to say.
The bunny hop.
No one saw that. Yeah. Give the man some credit though. He's having an impressive performance on this Gnar. 4 and 3.
And what I like most about it is his build. He's definitely decided, okay, I am split pushing this game. He's not, I mean, he's tanky.
So do you like the GA here?
What do you mean?
Yeah, the Yasuo split push, you didn't like the GA.
Right, sorry, the GA. I thought you said J. So, and I was like, what is that? Okay.
Do you like the J?
I like the GA. I mean, look at that. Yeah, just this huge damage from Smittyj because he's just constantly split pushing and fighting. And there is a lot of damage coming. Honestly, this whole game's been a bit of a slugfest to an extent.
Very different from our opening game today. Caedrel, Sheriff, Larssen find that their waves been clipped off, but look at the mini wave charging in the mid, charging in the bot.
And this is the difficult thing for Splyce right now, is they have 2 super minion waves pushing in here. Smittyj can't really split push, at least for any significant objectives, outside of the Nexus, really. But that does make it hard now for Splyce to adequately and efficiently defend against a H2k push, because it's only one lane that H2k have to go to, and it is 2 really hard pushing lanes that Splyce have to defend, not including the one that H2k are actively pushing.
It's the point where you just go back to the fountain, heal up, try it all again, but H2k looking to close the net here. Sheriff hurting the last wave of minions into the top side. That last Nexus tower is not looking too healthy either, so H2k going to close this one out as Smittyj just runs over kaSing in Gnar form. You got to think this is the end, Foxdrop. H2k will be able to find themselves a win in this one. One last fight, and Splyce are falling. Playoff hope starting to get a little more dim for this team, but as it is only the Nexus for H2k, today is a great day.
1-13, the dream. Look at the smile on Larssen's face. The rookie comes through and delivers his team from evil, securing his first, not only H2k's first win of the LCS, but
his first win as well.
His first win ever.
Never say die. And H2k can hold their heads high today after taking down Splyce, and it's certainly going to have an impact on the playoff picture.
Yeah, and this is, I mean, I don't know who writes the script, but wow.
What a twist.
What a twist that was, because I mean, Splyce were actually looking like one of, I mean, I predicted them as fourth. I predicted them as the fourth best team going into playoffs here, and dropping a game against H2k was absolutely a shocker there. I don't think, I mean, no one could have predicted that, and just the whole thing is, I just don't know what to say.
I don't think you have to. It speaks for itself that H2k, outside of maybe the first 5 or 10 minutes, really put it in the driver's seat, and they played not just well, but they played smart.
And absolutely, they're 1,000%. This was not an ugly game, really. This was just a quality victory. And I really think that H2k just, I mean, just huge credit. I can't take anything away from them. And for me, the fact that they were behind in this game, the fact that they actually started the game off, I mean, like you said, out of the first 5 minutes wasn't great. But to me, the fact that they even managed to win after that situation, it was just like, wow.
Yeah,
like,
well, let's talk a little bit more about how it all happened. We're going to take another look at that insane fight in Splyce's base after 32 minutes. This one's brought to you by Acer Predator.
This is the one where kaSing's trying to find the execution range onto Larssen, and Larsen's having none of it. Absolutely none of it. Really, really close here, but either way, Larssen comes out on top. But looking at the rest of the team fight on the bottom side here, at this point, H2k, they're too strong. They're a little bit too tanky. They have a little bit too much damage. And the team comp from Splyce, if they wanted to have success, they could have, a fight like that, if they found it maybe 10, 15 minutes earlier, they probably would have won it. But at this point in the game, they're a bit too far behind. H2k have already come online, and they pull out the victory in the team fight. And Smittyj.
I mean, split push Gnar, more like cleanup. Like, this was, that was nuts. Look at those boomerangs.
Yeah, he had Phantom Dancer and Blade King. He's, he was throwing those boomerangs pretty
well, he fought
fast.
One at a time. I think that was the important thing, is like at this point, everyone's exhausted on Splyce's side, and they've run out of ultimates and everything, so he just goes in, and he just gets the hyper procs over and over.
Yeah, the goal difference right there, it tells the whole story. I mean, that's basically just how the entire game went. It was just H2k were losing and then decided they didn't want to lose anymore. They'd had enough of losing, and there it is.
I'm going to make a bold statement.
Oh my goodness.
This is the best H2k we've seen thus far.
Wow, what a bold statement.
Do you agree with me?
I absolutely agree with you.
Wow, okay. I
was expecting you to say something
a good
like,
analysis.
Will H2k win Worlds?
Ooh, I don't know if they're going to be going, but I'll say maybe.
If they were going, obviously they would.
Yeah,
we'll never know because they won't be.
Wow.
Bad story.
Suck the energy out, man.
But I mean, they would. They would obviously win.
Look, seriously, like, this was incredibly impressive from them. And Splyce, they definitely lost a step or two, but I don't think they were playing especially bad this game either.
Not fully. I mean, obviously, when you're losing to the 0-13 team, you can say, oh, yeah, obviously you played bad. And if you don't watch the game, that's what people are going to assume, right? That Splyce just
but you definitely
did awful, and you should watch the game.
Yeah, go back and watch the VoD if you're right here.
I mean, if they're listening to us now, they probably watched the game.
That's probably a good point. So let's go on to the next. We'll soon reveal the player of the game, so be sure to go to @LLEsports on Twitter. Give us your vote. We've narrowed it down to Smittyj, Larssen, and Caedrel. Again, those are all really, really good choices here because every one of them had some crazy hero plays.
No, absolutely. The mid-jungle duo was really impressive this game. The fact that Larsen's a rookie and was able to put out the victory there as well. And Smittyj, I mean, you saw the Smittyj clips. I think his split push pressure was really key in this game too.
Definitely deserving some montages. Now, Darkstar Cho'Gath is now on sale, which was created by a wish from the Make-A-Wish Foundation. Excuse me. 100% of the proceeds are going from all Darkstar Cho'Gath content will be donated via our partner Global Giving to regionally based charities around the globe. So be sure to check out more information online at LeagueOfLegends.com. Always good to see a skin going for a good cause.
Yeah, absolutely, and it is a pretty skin.
It is really freaking cool. Now,
really nice.
Let's see what Larssen has to say after H2k's first win of the Summer Split.
Thanks, Pyra, and thanks, Larssen, for joining me. A well-deserved victory here. So what does it mean to you to finally take down Splyce and break the losing streak?
I mean,
It's better like this.
Obviously, it's really happy for the guys that they finally got a win. And also, it's my first LCS weekend. So obviously, it's really fun to get a win here and not just lose every game.
Yeah, how do you feel about your performance? Because you just came into the team and the split is almost coming to an end. So what do you feel about your performance this week, especially today?
I'm actually pretty happy with my performance. Like, I can always do better. And like when I play against Perks, I saw like he is so smart about the game. When he got the lead, he has played it like so smart. So there's always a lot of stuff to improve, you know. But I'm still decently happy with my performance this weekend.
Well, I know you look up to Perks, and basically you were happy playing against him yesterday. So what does it mean, and how do you feel playing against Perks in G2 yesterday?
I mean, it was a hard game, obviously. I knew it coming in, like it was my first game, and I hadn't as much screen time with the team. But I mean, it was still a fun experience of playing as Perks. Like, it's one of the best mid, if not the best mid in Europe, like Caps and him. So it was really a great experience to play against him, obviously.
Well, thank you for joining me today. And again, congrats on breaking the losing streak. Now we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, it's going to be Vitality versus UOL. Don't go anywhere.
Odoamne gets the teleport out. They find Sheriff caught in the Demonic Ascension. H2k scattering. Caedrel, there's the ball delivery on top of him, and Nisqy's going to pick up the kill as well. Right into Caedrel, forcing the flash, and there's going to be a shockwave traded for even more damage. Nisqy's going to fall. Larssen is managing to come up with the kill, and they keep going all into the Lambs despite Xerxe. Odoamne caught up in H2k.
Championships.
Oh, speaking of Smittyj, hello! I had a transition, but forget about that one. Smittyj's going to fall. Looks a hunting, gets the ignite. I don't think that's enough. Oh, hello, looks for the death from below. Larssen dodges out. Nice play by the rookie Pullman. And he gets the outplay, but he's still clipped by Kobbe in the end. Oh, but it still keeps on going. That's a lot of fights. Now Kobbe, hop over. There's the Gnar from Smittyj looking for some revenge from earlier. Sheriff 1v2, Smittyj flashing right back.
Gonna get mega.
This is going to be a triple kill. And Splyce are falling. Playoff hope starting to get a little more dim for this team. But as it is only the Nexus for H2k, today is a great day.